It's March 18th, 2015. So he was sexually exploiting me. I don't remember specifically some of the sexual abuse, but I am very sure that he did, because some of it just seems so strange that I don't remember why I was in his bed for such a long time, and why that's the only place that I even remember at all. I mean, why do I remember, like, day after day after day being in his bed? So when he had his tape recorder out and was doing things to quote-unquote work with me about things, it wasn't at a table. It was in his bed. So at the time that we would work on the things on the tape recorder, I would be clothed. I remember being clothed in his bed. But he would also say things like, he started using, like, dirty language around me, like pussy, blah blah blah, saying things like that. Do you know what pussy is? And asking me questions about that, and wanting me to talk like that on a tape recorder. And then he was saying things about, like, do you know what it means to go down on someone? And I was like, no. And then even though he was saying that he didn't have to use torture to program me and get me to respond to things that were triggers that he wanted me to respond to in a certain way, I was getting tortured, because I was getting tortured outside of his house, and then I was getting brought to his house, and he was repeating the exact same things, like enforcing things that people were torturing me over. So he was basically taking part in a non-torture form of reinforcement of programming me. And the thing is before that, like much earlier, he had been involved in also torturing me himself. So I think he was counting on the idea that I wouldn't remember that he had ever done anything harmful to me, and that it had been such a long time that I would only remember the times that he didn't directly hurt me, and was just asking me to practice with him in a bed. And while he was asking me to practice on these certain things, like repeating the same things over and over, and like if he said one thing, I had to say this other thing, and then we'd have to rehearse it over and over and over. Well, while he was having me do it that way, when I was older, like a preteen, there was another group that was putting the electrocution head brace on my head and, like, you know, slamming me. So basically I was getting tortured while I was being programmed, and then I was going to Judge Gillespie's bed, and he was saying, let's practice this. So it was like a reinforcement of things that I was tortured for. And anyway, when he was using this tape recorder thing, he was saying something like, using the name Howard a couple times. And at some point, he said to me, Judge Gillespie did, he said, when Mike Tanzer goes down on you, he said, then you'll really know you're fucked. And he kind of said it like that. He didn't say it like, okay, well, I have to warn you about something. If Mike Tanzer goes down on you, like what I told you that means, then you'll really know you're fucked. It wasn't like he said it like that, which is kind of why it's important for me to sometimes be using these video clips instead of just always writing about stuff, because you can't get the intonation of how someone is stressing their words. But the way he said it was, when Mike Tanzer goes down and he said, then you'll know you're fucked. And he said it in kind of a mean way, like he was happy about it. And I said it a little even more differently than that, but it was just and when he said it the way he said it, and the tape recorder was running, and he's mentioning this name Howard here and there, I started thinking, is he talking to me still, like Judge Gillespie? Somebody was outside here. So I started thinking, I thought we were using this tape recorder so that we can he wants to play back what we practice. So why is he saying this name Howard a couple of times? And why do I feel like he's talking to Howard, like leaving a message for this guy Howard? not even really talking to me or addressing me specifically. And so I started, actually when he started saying things like that, the more he started talking about pussy and wanting me to say things about pussy and going down on someone and then making that comment about how I would be fucked when, then you'll know then you'll know you're fucked. Then you'll really know you're fucked. Kind of a thing. Something about Howard. That's when I started to get kind of wigged out about being around Judge Gillespie. So, I'm not sure what I said. I'm seriously not sure what I said. But I think I told my parents I don't really want to go over there anymore. And I said I'm scared. Oh, and then in one of my video clips I said I was kind of dramatizing things and saying, yeah, maybe you see some guy and how they're faking things. And how he was talking about how I was saying you imagine a scenario where like some guy runs in and he's saying, where's the money? And all of that with Gillespie. Well, I said, well, like maybe, but what I meant to say is the wrong word. What I meant to say is that, like, for example, because that is what happened. Seriously, it's not something that I'm imagining could happen, but I'm just saying imagine the situation because this is what happened, for example. And I need to clarify that because it did happen, and what happened is just as I said, exactly as I said it. Guys busted into the house when I was there, asked him where the money was, acted like they were going to hurt me. He's saying, don't hurt her. And then took off, and then they're all kind of winking back and forth and smiling. And I suddenly started thinking, Gillespie doesn't seem to be that upset about this, but he wants me to think it's scary. And and then during that time, one of the triggers, for example, that he was using is to say, now I'm going to say in a courtroom, he said, no, I'm going to say, you're finished, Miss Garrett, and you'd have a certain hand signal. Well, I don't remember what that signal was exactly and why it would be different from the other things, but I do think that I'm sure that I must have had there must have been some kind of sexual thing with Gillespie, but I might remember more of it later. And so he said, when you say, I think what it was with Gillespie is that the sexual stuff was like in a different area, a different time, and then it was this other time that he wanted to do the programming of me, and it wasn't sexual as much. So it was like he partitioned these different times. And then, of course, there was the one time that he raped me along in the same manner that these other judges raped me, just going one after the other. But anyway, so he said, when I say that's enough, or whatever, I'm finished with that. Then I was supposed to say, I think you were finished decades ago, or I think you were finished long time ago, Your Honor. And then he would say, call the sheriff, and then I was supposed to say, why are you calling the sheriff? And we practiced this over and over, and then I was getting tortured and electrocuted about doing the same thing. So it did become like a subconscious, spontaneous thing without my even thinking about it. And he used it against me in court. He just used it against me in court recently in court. And he used it against me in my second case where all of the records and the entire file has disappeared from the court. And it was over my second baby daughter, who I named Sophia. I named every single one of my daughters Sophia, which maybe sounds kind of stupid, but I named the second one to remember my first one, and then I got tortured and electrocuted and drugged and repressed some of that memory for a while. And I did have it surface a couple times and started looking into things, and I kind of get targeted for it and have to focus on something else. But and I didn't have enough things, like I wasn't around enough things to help trigger all of my memories and have them come back to me. But this is the third time that I've had a daughter named Sophia, and I named her to remember the other one, and then I remembered, oh yeah, there were two, not just one other one, there were two other ones. So I have 3 baby daughters, and I really don't know where my other 2 daughters are. I have just a weird feeling that they're dead, because why would the government keep cloning them and have the exact same looking, have me giving birth to the exact same looking daughters? If there's potentially my other 2 daughters out there that could somehow one day stumble across this and find me, or find out who their mom is, and then wonder about these other clones. So they're either very well hidden, traumatized, and tortured somewhere, or I think maybe they're dead. You know, and why would they be going along with some kind of a government plan to, like, yeah, we want to be big clone army? You know, I just think that's highly implausible. And I know the government tried to kill me. So if the government tried to kill me, then why wouldn't they try to kill other kids? I mean, they have killed other kids. So I am not sure where my other 2 daughters are. And I hope that, I wish that they had been around me, because I would have warned them about some individuals that they need to be warned about. But I hope that they are alive and that they're somewhere and are okay. And if any of them ever found out that I'm their mom, I would definitely like to meet them and talk to them. So anyway, here's this judge, you know, asking me to rehearse these things for court, which I did just recently, but I also did it for my second hearing and for the first one. And then he'd say, call the sheriff, and then I would say, why are you calling the sheriff? And then he'd say, because you seem unstable. And he said, you're acting unstable, which, you know, on a court record could indicate, it implies that, you know, all you read is you're acting unstable. Well, sounds like maybe I'm flipping out physically there, you know, in the courtroom. And you can't tell that from a transcript. You know, how was I looking unstable? I was shouting, you know, I was trembling, I was reeling back and forth. You know, he's saying I was unstable. I seemed unstable suddenly. And then, but then what his whole trigger was, is that I was supposed to then say, well, are you afraid for your life? And then he would say, yes, I am afraid. And then his little double entendre on that was, he wanted me to say, give him the excuse to say things like, yes, he was afraid, which made me sound bad. It made the state's case for them, because it made it sound like I was the type of person that made others feel that their lives were endangered, including a grown-up man, you know, a judge. So here he's prejudicing me by making me sound like I'm a dangerous criminal who's unstable and nuts. And yet what he told me in private, and I think this was his method of trying to keep me to shut up and not tell anyone, you know, that whole thing, was to tell me, when I say that I'm afraid, just remember that there are a lot of people that might want to kill me. So here he is saying something that he thinks that I'll think of. I think, oh, I better not say anything, because, yeah, we're like this. Wait a second. We're like this. I saw some guy today going like this. This is a little different from this. Well, he was acting like I should think that he and I were in on the same secret, and that and in reality it was like it was a good way to keep a kid quiet, because the kid thinks, oh, I can't tell anybody because there's this thing going on that other people don't know about, but I'm part of this big thing, I'm saving lives and whatever. When in reality, the government was using this entire situation to make me sound crazy so they could kidnap my baby. And that's what Judge Gillespie did.